Hey, it's Jason Duff from Small Nation, and I'm here today with Jesse Lear from Epicurean Properties. Jesse's been a longtime friend, entrepreneur, and someone that I really look up to, especially right now as we're going through a lot of transitions and changes. Jesse, it's great to have you today.
Thank you for having me, Jason. It's good to see you.
Yeah, so Jesse, you and I met through our friend Michael Simmons, and Michael organized a group called Impact, and it contained just entrepreneurs from all around the country and even around the world that were passionate about growing and accountability and supporting each other. And one thing I always admired about you is that you just had this beam of positivity every time that I was around you. And I think now more than ever, we need people that have that positive outlook about life and about so many transitions and changes. How are you coping kind of in this situation right now and in the realm of the new reality?
Yeah, great question. I think I appreciate the compliment, first of all. You know, it's a tough time. Um, nobody knows the rules of this game that we're playing now. There are a lot of us that thought we'd figured it out, and all of a sudden it changed in ways that we couldn't have predicted. And um, that we went through a couple of scary weeks where, as I shared with you in another conversation, our calendar pretty much cleared. We had reservations, a lot of reservations already for March and April and May at our 14 Airbnb properties that we have. And, they were all wiped clean almost overnight. I believe it was, 20 plus $1,000 worth of cancellations. So we went from being very confident about this new business that we had built to wondering if everything was going to crash and burn. And I think there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there who feel the same way. And really, the same spirit that got us into this whole entrepreneurship game, I think, is the spirit that's going to get us out of this challenge that we're in. And it's really, we got to get back to that scrappy hustle and creativity that got us where we are. And opportunity just looks very different now. I believe it still exists, but it's time to get creative and really figure out what it looks like in this new environment.
Well said. And you mentioned your business and having 14 luxury Airbnbs. You look back about 2 or 3 years ago when Airbnb was first introduced, and this idea that the whole industry outside of traditional hotels was budding and growing. How did you kind of come into starting your business, and what was that passion and motivation to actually create Epicurean Properties?
So I've been an entrepreneur, as you know, for a good while, and my last company was in a completely different industry, the waste industry, and we serviced primarily apartment communities. And we built that company to a decent size and ended up being acquired in January of 2018. And after selling the company, one of my dreams for a long time had been to travel. And I'd never really had the time or money to travel extensively. And, so my wife and I decided after we sold the company that we were going to travel a decent amount. And so we spent a good chunk of 2018 going different places around the world and experiencing a lot of little boutique hotels and different things like that where the experience was very unique. And part of what we gained out of that was really a passion for hospitality. My wife is an interior designer by trade. So she already had a very strong passion for design. And, my primary role at my last company was taking care of our customers. The whole guest relationship management is what we called it. So I was passionate about that piece of it. And, after selling the company, traveling for a little while, I got the entrepreneurial itch again and really wanted to start another business. Wasn't really sure what. Until I heard a conversation on a podcast one day about these people who were curating apartments and turning them into sort of luxury short-term rentals. And I thought, man, that really sounds interesting. It sounds like fun. And so I thought, you know what, it couldn't hurt to try it. So I called a buddy of mine who had a bunch of apartments and just said, hey, sorry about that.
It's a business call. It's good.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, I can pause if you need to catch that. If it's a business deal, we got to make money. So the good news is about that, you just closed the deal. So nice work on that.
Thank you. Yeah. So now we'll have to catch up to where we were in the conversation. Is that still me, by the way?
Well, no, that's me, and that's the new realm that we deal in. Is like as
I
tech
know.
things come in, like it's just how it is. Which one thing you mentioned I want to touch on is you actually run and work with your wife in your business.
Yeah.
How is that? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, a lot of people ask about that. That's a kind of interesting dynamic of what we do. So my wife, when we met, she was an interior designer working for a kitchen and bath design firm in Indianapolis. And after we got married, she moved to, when we got married, she moved to Columbus. And her original plan was just to get a job at another interior design firm here in the city. And, we started looking at our dreams and our goals and what we wanted in life. And we realized, wow, it doesn't really, it's kind of a bummer that Jesse's worked, these past 7 to 8 years to build a certain degree of freedom so that we can travel. But then Chelsea is going to get this job that's going to tie us down from 9 to 5 every day. And, I didn't want to travel without her. So we basically ended up in this situation where we wanted to figure out how we could both have the kind of flexibility that we wanted to be able to travel and that sort of thing. So we worked together to get her started as a freelance interior designer with her own business. And she started getting a couple clients here and there and really built it from that point on. And when we got to the point where we wanted to buy a house, we found a home that actually had a home office in it. And then it had a sitting room right beside it. So we basically remodeled the sitting room, turned it into an office for me, and she got the home office. And so now we have side-by-side offices, and that's how we do it. I mean, a lot of people say, well, don't you get distracted all day? But most of the time, we don't see each other for an hour or two, three at a time.
Well,
So it kind of feels like we have our own space.
To meet and work with Chelsea, and she is fantastic. And I think one thing that really speaks to her work is when you see a before picture, and then how she really does everything from the paint colors to the window treatments to the furniture, like every piece, how well it flows together. And how important have you found that design is to successfully closing that sale and achieving financial success with your Airbnbs?
Yeah, I think it's been very important. I think, having her eye for design in the different properties that we have, it has been really crucial because you have different clientele who are looking for a different experience, and if you just put the same exact furniture and some tacky matching colors or whatever, which is maybe all I would know how to do, in each of these different apartments, you're not going to really get to experience as a guest the culture of each area of town. So for example, a higher end apartment downtown is going to have, maybe it's in a more modern luxury building or something like that. It's going to have a totally different feel than say a more traditional gated community might in the, a quiet suburb or something like that. So she's really good at reflecting all of that. And it's a big part of giving the guests the experience that they want. But yeah, it was a crazy ride starting this business together because we essentially started with this first property. A buddy of mine said, hey, I've got this one that you can try this whole idea of Airbnb at. It's an attic apartment, so a lot of people aren't really attracted to the idea of renting it long term because you got to climb all these stairs every day and whatnot. But as a short term rental, there's a huge novelty factor. So we rented this apartment from him and worked together to furnish it and decorate it and everything down to even, it's right in the middle of German Village. So we've got like flowers in the apartment that are native to Germany and, decorating the walls and stuff like that. Yeah, it's really cool. And so we ended up breaking even in 8 days on rent in that particular community or in that particular apartment. And because of that experience, I started talking to my other friends who were in the apartment industry. And long story short, we scaled from 1 apartment to 14 apartments in 90 days. So just to furnish and decorate, imagine like what it was like. You think about what it was like the last time you moved, and imagine doing that 14 times in 90 days. It was like, we barely ate or slept for 3 months. So we definitely grew a lot closer as a couple through that experience.
And some people can actually grow apart, and that's probably the quickest way after new marriage to really test that relationship out.
Oh yeah.
You have 14 Airbnbs, and as I'm doing the math here, how many toilets is that to clean? How many loads of laundry? Like, have you probably figured out all the data with that?
Oh yeah, we've cleaned more toilets and done more loads of laundry than we ever thought possible. Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, we have a great team now that gives us the flexibility to really focus on building the business. But for a long time, we did every part of it ourselves. You always estimate, oh, it's going to cost this amount to start and take this much time. And in reality, it almost always takes far more time and money than you predict. And that was certainly the case for us. And now we were just about reaching that point where we thought we could scale it and everything was stabilizing. And then we ran into the whole coronavirus situation. So, we could have looked at that as a big, stop sign, just slammed on the brakes and said, hey, I don't know if this business is going to work out, and talk to the landlords and say, hey, I don't know if we want to be liable for rent on 14 high-end apartments anymore, but instead we've really chosen to just pivot our focus and look at, okay, that was opportunity a month ago.
Yeah.
What is opportunity now? What does it look like? And that's kind of how the whole journey has evolved.
So let's talk about that. What kind of steps are you doing to place your properties in the best place in this new economy?
Yeah. So really, I mean, we didn't know what to do, to be honest with you. So a lot of figuring that out was just listening to the conversations that are happening in our guests' heads. So when they would message us about certain things, we'd never had anyone ask about cleanliness before. Now all of a sudden everybody's asking about our processes for disinfecting our apartments between guests. We've never had anybody ask about whether it's a private entrance or whether you have to go up an elevator in order to get to the apartment. So all of a sudden we had those types of questions coming in, and really, we had to go in and rewrite all of our descriptions, all of our titles on our listings. We realized that very few people were searching on Airbnb anymore. So all of a sudden we had to start looking at Craigslist and Google AdWords and Facebook Marketplace and all these places that were really unnecessary before, because Airbnb was just feeding us all the traffic we could want as long as our listings were good. But when you recognize a different target client or target market, and you learn what the conversation sounds like in their heads, you can start talking to them in a way that makes your places feel like a perfect fit for that new customer. And there are also some strategic things that we found out that we can do to attract them. So for instance, before in the past, like we would have maybe the 3 to 7 days closest to now would be highly discounted so that we could get those dates filled if they were unoccupied. But now what we're doing is we've jacked up prices like crazy. We've like doubled our prices because we've found out that very few people are renting for 2 or 3 or 4 days at a time. Instead, what we've done is we're trying to attract these people who are renting for 30 days. So we're doubling the prices, but then offering like 30 to 50% off discounts for anybody who books 30 days or more.
People love discounts, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're somebody who's just trying to take 3 days on my calendar, you're going to be like, whoa, that's an outrageous price. I'm never going to book that. But if you're somebody who we're trying to target right now, who's trying to book a 30, 60, 90-day stay, they're going to look at it and go, 40% off, that's incredible. And they're going to be much more attracted to that property. So really just listening to what customers are saying and trying to identify what our new target market really looks like. There have been a lot of really cool things that have come from that. I mean, just our operations alone have simplified like crazy by hosting these longer term guests, because now we're not having this. Just before, it was insane. I mean, we would have 2 turnovers on one day, 2 apartments that had to be cleaned. And then the next day we'd have 11, and the next day we'd have 3, and the next day we'd have 9, and they're constantly changing because people are rescheduling and canceling and booking and extending their stays and shortening their stays. So it was quite an operation. And now all of a sudden, our calendars are just as booked, at least for, certain months as they were before, but we have 10% or less of the turnovers. So, tackling that new opportunity is actually giving us a way to simplify things a little bit. So a lot of what I'm just telling other entrepreneurs, especially those in the Airbnb space, is that, like, it may seem like opportunity went away, but it just changed.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of us, at least in industries that haven't been completely shut down,
Well, I
need to look.
applaud you for being and thinking about, it's easy to get stuck and to say, well, this was our dream, this was our plan. Well, things out of our control have forced us to change our plans. And now we have to innovate and we
Yeah.
have to survive and we have to think about the new reality for the future. Um, right now, a lot of small business owners are at home. They're not used to not going into work. They're not used to having that gigantic to-do list. Um, One thing that we're trying to coach folks right now is to be looking at reviews
Mm,
and spending time on really identifying those sites where your customers may be interacting or communicating that you may or may not be aware of. And there's a lot of those out there, whether it's Google or Yelp or TripAdvisor or Facebook. Can you speak a little bit, because I imagine that reviews are important for your business, and I'd like to hear if they are, but what are some things that people can be doing while they're at home, maybe to enhance the level of online identity and reviews that they have?
great question. Great question. Yeah, I think people underestimate reviews. And I know even as a customer, I've underestimated the importance of reviews for supporting businesses that I care about. One of the things I've learned as a short-term rental host, particularly on Airbnb, is that a lot of people think, oh, if there's a 0 to 5 scale, I'm gonna get, it'd take a lot for me to give somebody 5 stars because nobody's perfect. So I'm just gonna give a 4. And what we found on a lot of platforms, including Airbnb, is that if you're much lower than 5, it's a significant negative impact. And just to give you one example, we have about 147 reviews now that we've gotten in the past 5 or 6 months since we began. Only 2 of those reviews that we've ever gotten have not been 5-star, and those 2 were 4 stars. And at one of our properties, we have it's a historic apartment, and there's a gap underneath an interior door that's about, I would say, to be super accurate, maybe 2.5 inches. And it just leads to an empty stairwell that was bolted off years ago. It's in this historic building. It used to be a hidden servants staircase. Super cool story around who owned this building back in the 1800s. It's bolted off permanently, and we had one guest who came in and said that she left a review saying that there was a gap big enough to fit a football through at the bottom of the door and made her feel unsafe. And we responded to the review the best we could, and you want to be tactful because you don't want to insult a guest or anything either.
Right.
But literally this gap was maybe 2.5 inches. 4 stars, not bad, right? So 5 stars, 4 stars doesn't seem, as a customer, like it would make a big difference, but it tanked our bookings for probably a month. We went from getting nearly a booking a day to getting no bookings for weeks on end at that particular property. And finally, a guest booked anyway, and they left us a stellar review, and another guest left us, and then we were fine. But I would just encourage people, both as customers and as business owners, to not overlook the importance of reviews, because these days there's so many different companies competing for attention that a lot of consumers are making decisions almost solely off of reviews, as long as the other boxes are checked. And then as a business owner, so if you're trying to support a business, definitely go leave them a review. That's a much larger help to them than a lot of us may have previously realized. As a business owner, one of the things that I love to do that I think has helped a lot is to go to the reviews on whatever platform and respond to all of them publicly. That is something that I've found that a lot of guests and customers really anywhere are reading. And it gives them a great picture. Like what they're doing is they're really trying to figure out if they can trust you as a service provider. So they're reading these reviews, and as they do so, they're getting a picture in their mind of the kind of person you are and the kind of heart and culture this business has that they're considering dealing with. And when you respond to these reviews, that gives the customer a great way to get a picture of that. And so I always coach other business owners, like, remember, when you're responding to this review, you're not responding to the person who left the review. You're responding to your next customer who's reading it, trying to see how you react when you're criticized or how you react when you're praised. So yeah, huge thing to pay attention to in terms of what you can do, just while we're kind of waiting this whole thing out. And I think pre-sales is another. You got a lot of industries that are shut down now, but there are still events happening. in say August or September, October that they already know about. People are craving the things that they're missing right now. So it might be the perfect time to say, hey, you stayed with us last summer. Are you planning to come back this summer? I know you were wanting to go to this event, but we've got this other event coming in October and we'd love to see you there. Are you interested in pre-booking if we give you a small discount? So I think those types of things that we would leave on the table because we don't have time. Now we have time.
Yeah. How are you using this time to refine and fix and strengthen your business going forward?
It's that's probably one of the largest benefits of having this time. I mean, especially as a startup scaling rapidly, we didn't have a lot of time. We were kind of just running around trying to survive, keeping up with everything. So there were little things like we have house manuals for all of our properties, but they're all only in the app or on the website. There's nothing in the apartment that will tell you how to take out the trash or whatever. We're finding little things like that all over the place. We're realizing, hey, people who stay at these places, they may, if we have a beautiful, super soft frette robe from, Turkey or whatever in this apartment, it makes sense to think that if somebody stays there and they're obsessed with this robe and they're amazed by how comfortable it is, they might want to buy one. So we're looking at systems to maybe install to, where somebody can order one of these robes while they're in there, or maybe order a black car pickup from the airport. Things like that we never had time to even think about before. Mm-hmm. And, so we're going back in, we're dealing with that. We're streamlining our accounting. We're setting up separate profit and loss statements for every single property. Again, something that I knew I would eventually get around to, but hadn't had time to do that yet. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to get everything kind of streamlined so that once this whole thing's over, we can really capitalize on all the pent up demand that's likely to be waiting for us whenever that might be.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, it's easy to get kind of stuck in the media cycle and the gloom and the doom. And there's no question that what we're dealing with is unprecedented and difficult. But, when the fog lifts, like the opportunity that's going to be out there, there's a lot of it. And I think it's going to be people like you that are preparing and improving your systems and your marketing to really capture that. And I think hopefully the people that are listening and watching those reminders that you just can't kind of set back and do business as status quo, that no longer works anymore.
No, exactly. And I think what we need to realize as well is that there are a lot of people who are treating this that way. There are a lot of people who are looking at this like a chance to sit back and take a breather, a chance to have a little staycation. And I think, if you need it, that's all well and good. But I think this is a huge opportunity that we have right now, where the playing field is being completely rearranged. And those who aren't really willing to hustle and get creative in this time are gonna fall by the wayside. And that's sad on one hand, but it also creates a lot of opportunity. If nothing else, from reduced competition for those of us who are really willing to hustle and get creative and innovate. It's not a time to sit back and rest, even if you're one of the few people who aren't struggling.
Well, that's the thing. We all are struggling, but yeah, I think I know what my coping mechanism is, and I imagine yours might be the same. It's let's create.
Yeah.
Some things we can't control, but we can control our mindset, and we also can control, having that routine of just getting up and getting that list down of the 3 things that you want to accomplish that day. So I think we all have, like I said, different coping mechanisms. I see you. It looks like you've got some beautiful glasses and maybe some nice liquor behind you right there. So.
Oh yeah. You notice they're not full anymore, right?
I was gonna say, my wine collection is starting to dwindle down a little bit too, but.
Right.
Yeah. Well, hey, thank you so much for jumping on a call. And for anyone that's maybe watching that is interested in looking in the Columbus market or in Bellefontaine to find and book and rent one of your properties, how can they do so?
Yeah, so the best way to do that is really just to go to epicureanproperties.com. That's EPICUREAN properties.com. On that website, you can find photos of all of our different apartments that we have, and we're going to be constantly adding additional properties in the coming months as well. So you can keep track of it there. Also follow us on Facebook. We're always posting reviews that we've gotten, photos of the different amenities that we're rolling out. We're constantly doing really cool new things like this month for anybody who books 60 days or longer, we're doing a free black car pickup for the airport, or if you're not flying in, we'll do an Uber gift card. No, we don't do change fees. As long as you book for 60 days or longer, you can extend, shorten, cancel, whatever, without any penalties, as long as you book directly through us. Wine club membership, 2 bottles a month is included as long as you book 2 months or more. So we're constantly trying to figure out how to be different, how to innovate, and how to really pamper our guests and make them feel special while they're staying with us, and really make this an experience that isn't just a place to crash while they're here on business or for medical reasons or whatever, but is a place that will become an experience that they remember. So epicureanproperties.com or Epicurean Properties on Facebook. Feel free to send out a message. We're still a very small team, so I will probably be the one personally responding to anyone who messages.
I love it, and appreciate you and your leadership through these days. And I'm excited to see how your business continues to grow and come out ahead. So keep up the good work.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Jesse.